Hey guys, I want to go over the 7-1 lesson quiz. I noticed a lot of you struggled with this on Pearson, and I think part of the issue too is Pearson, on a multiple choice answer, if you missed one, it gave you no points, and I'm really not liking that. I want to go ahead and go over the 7-1 quiz with you. Expect to have a retake mixed in with your 7-2 quiz, which I will release on Monday. So let's go ahead, let's do this. So knowing that cosine of theta is 5/13, select all the other correct trigonometric ratios for theta. So we are told cosine of theta equals 5/13. Well, I know that cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means my adjacent leg equals 5, my hypotenuse equals 13. Let's just sketch in a triangle just so we have something to refer to. So you can put theta up here or down here, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put it here. Hypotenuse measure is 13. Remember, hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Adjacent is 5. And I don't know that leg. I have to find out what that measurement is in order to calculate the rest of my trigonometric ratios. I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. States that the square of this leg plus the square of this leg has to equal the square of the hypotenuse. Remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that means I'm going to have this measurement here. We're going to call that, we'll call 5a. We'll do 5 squared. We'll call this b. b squared equals 13 squared. Okay, so now let's just simplify and we're going to solve for b. 5 squared is 25 plus b squared equals 169. I have to subtract 25 from both sides, which gives me b squared equals 144. To get rid of that square, I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is the square root, which gives me b equals 12. So that means this side is 12. Now let's go ahead, let's start plugging away. They already gave us cosine of theta. Well, I know that the reciprocal ratio for cosine is secant. So secant of theta, and a reciprocal is you're just going to flip your fraction. So this is 13/5. Do I have that in here? Yes, I do. So D says secant of theta equals 13/5. This is correct. Let's do sine. Sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So here's theta. Opposite is 12. My hypotenuse is 13. Do I have that option? Oh, here it says sine of theta is 13/5. That is not correct. And I don't see it anywhere else. The reciprocal ratio of sine of theta is cosecant. So cosecant of theta is 13/12. Do I have that? Cosecant of theta 13/12, that is E. And let's do tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite of theta is 12. Adjacent to theta is 5. So tangent of theta is 12/5. Here it is. Notice they also have tangent of theta down here as 5/12. That is incorrect. The reciprocal ratio of tangent is cotangent. So that means cotangent of theta is 5/12, which is right here. So your answer should have been B, C, D, and E. Let's look at the next one. Number 2, what are the sine and cosine ratios for a 30, 60, 90 triangle with a hypotenuse of 6 when theta equals 60 degrees? Let's sketch in a triangle. Okay, here's my right angle. We're going to call this angle 60 degrees, which means this one has to be 30 degrees. Ratios for this special triangle. The hypotenuse is always going to equal 2x. The leg opposite 30 degrees is x. The leg opposite 60 degrees is x times the square root of 3. Okay, now we are given a hypotenuse of 6, theta equals 60 degrees. My hypotenuse then means 2 times x has to equal 6. Well, that means x equals 3. So this leg here equals 3, which means then x equals 3. This leg is 3 times the square root of 3. Now we want to find the sine and cosine ratios. So sine of theta, remember, is opposite over hypotenuse. And again, we are focusing in on 60 degrees. Opposite of 60 degrees is 3 times the square root of 3. And my hypotenuse is 6. Now notice here, we can reduce this fraction. So sine of theta equals, well, 3/6 is the same as 1/2. I don't need that 1 out front. So sine of theta equals the square root of 3 over 2. Let's do cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so here's my 60 degree, my theta. Adjacent is 3. Hypotenuse is 6. We can reduce that. 1/2. Okay, so that leaves me with A. A is the correct answer. 3, we skipped that one. I did not post 4. Let's do 5. The sun shines at a 30-degree angle to the ground to the nearest inch. How long is the shadow cast by a 72-inch tall fence post? Here's my 30-degree angle to the ground. The sun is coming down over here. Here's the shadow. Here's my flagpole. I need to determine this length. We'll just call that x. So if I want to solve for this, let's look at the information I have. Here's angle theta. I have an opposite measurement and I need an adjacent measurement. Well, opposite adjacent, that can be tangent. Let's use tangent. Remember, tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. So that means we have a degree measure for theta, which is 30 degrees, equals opposite 72 all over adjacent. We don't know what that is. Let's go ahead, solve for x. Multiply both sides by x. It reduces out here. We get x tangent of 30 equals 72. Let's divide out the tangent of 30. We have to get x by itself. Those reduce out. We are left with x equals 72 divided by the tangent of 30. Now here's where you get out your calculator. Let's do it real quick. 72 divided by tangent of 30. We get 124.7. Given that they didn't give the 72 inches of the flagpole in decimals, I'm going to assume they want this rounded to the nearest unit. Let's call this 125 inches.